Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Buenos dias. Ni hao. Neweskeno. Aquaba. What up, though? This is the uNi Village weekly meeting. Uh, so, the challenging news is that we're half an hour behind or after the scheduled commencement of this meeting. The positive, the beneficial news is that I already do the notes. So my intention was actually to start the recording before I do the notes. So I abstain from doing so. The notes are done. We're ready for the meeting. So that being communicated. The hour is 13:33 Eastern Standard Zone. On this day 9 of month uno of year 123 after the commencement of the Parliament of the World's Religions, year 70 after the founding of the United Nations, day 2 of the week and day 3 of the full moon. And this weekly meeting of our uNi Village is called to order. We begin with a blessing. May all beings do well. We continue with a recitation of our mantra from the preamble of our compact. We, the sentient beings of our global federation of villages, observe the antiquated institutions and systems facilitating convention, and we believe we can do better. We recognize the historic and contemporary harm we cause each other, and we are dedicated to do better. We are dedicated to reconciliation. The wisdom of our ancestors, prophets, and sages tells us we do better by exercising compassion towards each other and all life. This begins by fundamentally respecting all beings, all life, all phenomena. And this continues through enhancing the wellness of all beings and all life, steadfastly as universal citizens. We are better learning that when we do this, we also enhance our own respective individual wellness. Thus, we reconstruct our institutions and systems to be proficiently compassionate and transcendent. This includes our institutions and systems of religion, government, education, health, finance, commerce, socialization, and additionally. We fundamentally challenge previous precepts, theories, laws, and methodologies of selfishness. We declare a new age of compassion. And whilst our new institutions and systems supplant the antiquated institutions and systems, we facilitate this process with maximum peace, humility, stability, efficiency, and compassion. We practice wealth ethos, including ahimsa, ubuntu, veritas, haya, shu, maka, huga, samadhi, shema, shibono, narab. The preceding text is provided for this purpose. Love and peace. So, for attendance, Peter Johansson OCC is on the books. There are 0 official viewers or participants on this hangout session. There's an absence of any emergency or urgent propositions. So that brings us to the minutes from the previous meeting. The previous meeting is convened a week ago. On day 2 of the week of month uno of year 123, after the commencement of the Parliament of Religions, year 70 after the founding of the United Nations, day 2 of the week. I should say that correctly. It is held a week ago on day 2 of month uno of year 123 after the commencement of the Parliament of the World Religions, year 70 after the founding of the United Nations, day 2 of the week and day 11 of the new moon. It begins at hour 13:17 Eastern Standard Zone, so 17 minutes after scheduled. Blessing is recited, mantra recited. Attendance, Peter Johansson OCC is on the books. Absence of emergency or urgent propositions. Minutes are read, agenda is read. Old business includes Wealth Ethos translation, follow-up, and correspondences regarding our trust compact, an update regarding that, an update regarding our vote of co-op. Residential co-op, sending out a correspondence for that within the previous week, as well as an update regarding our International Day of Peace, village experience here in our uNi Village, and as well as the social networking platform. Those are all basically all business. There's an absence of new business. For the Wowium Kavitkhik update, our update regarding a global federation of villages, there's a discussion or there's mention of the flags, the standard flag and the official flag, as well as co-op credits in our vote of co-op being distributed internationally amongst friends internationally. So that is the update regarding our Wowium Kavitkhik. For announcements, I make reference to the Interfaith New Year as well as Idul Adha, Alul, Purnima, Upasada, Juma, Shabbat, Sunday worship, and the International Day of Peace, as well as the approaching commencement of the next session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. For benevolent news, I sing Sundance, or the Lakota healing chant. That's what I'm going to refer to it. Sundance Sundance is a very sacred ritual, and requires certain knowledge and protocols, which I have a very modest command of. So it's appropriate for me to abstain from referring to it as Sundance necessarily, but I refer to it as the Lakota healing chant. I sing that, as well as This Little Light of Mine, as well as Lift Every Voice. The benediction is recited, and the meeting is concluded at 14:33 Eastern Standard Zone. So it's maybe a little less than an hour and a half long. So that's the previous meeting a week ago. Agenda for this meeting: old business includes vote of co-op update, International Day of Peace, a residential co-op, village experience. New business includes diplomatic status, and then update regarding our Woven Kubik, our Global Federation of Villages, including, well, I'll just leave it at that. And then announcements, benevolent news, benediction, and conclusion. So that's the agenda for today. And with that being said, we can get into old business. So old business, the first item is votive co-op update. So we have our meeting today. It goes well, on schedule, in a timely, comparatively succinct manner, meaning less than an hour, which is our general time frame. Anyway, so it's held. It's basically a lot of affirmation of what's previously communicated. The focus right at the moment is on brokers, hiring brokers to establish additional deals or arrangements for contributions for inventory. That's the focus at the moment. Within the next few weeks, I have less availability. I have additional obligations and tasks to tend to, and so that is just to be understood. And amidst that, my intention is to continue attending the meetings for the next few weeks, God willing, as well as do the bare bones amount of maintenance regarding record keeping and providing some additional material. I am charged with the task of completing the info packet today. God willing, I'll do that and get that available. Keith is planning to reach out to friends as well as additional groups, particularly on Facebook, with our votive co-op. Generally, but also with the emphasis on brokers as well. So we discussed a number of things the details of which are available at our votive co-op meeting. So those who are interested can look it up or contact me. Provide the recording accordingly. I mean, it's just another recording like this one, except with additional people. So that's a votive co-op update. The next item is International Day of Peace. So that is scheduled for this week, Wednesday, and we still plan to do something here in our uNi village. Very, very basic, very simple, very modest. Probably just handing out flyers with International Day of Peace paraphernalia, probably something with the United Nations on it as well. Ideally including the World Peace Prayer, may peace prevail upon earth, and preferably in multiple languages. How feasible that is? The list of languages that the World Peace Prayer Society provides takes up an entire page. So how feasible is it to actually print out entire pages with the intention of distributing it? And maybe we may anticipate encountering maybe a few dozen friends, so that may be feasible. Otherwise, The idea is just giving it like a short flyer, small flyer. Anyways, that's all in the works. And initially or previously, the idea is to also share some type of food product, even a fair trade product like some dried mangoes or something like that. Obviously, that's less feasible at the moment, and those arrangements abstain from being made at this point, and it's a little bit late in the game. I mean, there's the propensity of going to 10,000 villages nearby for some fair trade products like trinkets or something like that, but the cost is the cost to benefit ratio is very minimal at this point. So the idea is just sharing sharing the message, bringing the drum, making some music, maybe playing some of the some tracks or some of the loops from some of the world music instrumentation loops on GarageBand and hitting out at the drum with that a little bit, and just kind of like going with the vibe. But hanging out there for maybe an hour or so. The sun sets a little bit early at the moment, so originally the idea is scheduled to have it at 7 p.m. So for it to begin at 7 p.m., the sunset, it gets dark around 7:30 p.m. 19, half past 19 hour. So maybe I'll get there a little bit early. We'll see, God willing. It'll happen in a proficient manner. So that's what's happening with the International Day of Peace. Next item, residential co-op. So I think I mentioned this a week ago. The concept still going. Again, I have less availability to kind of earnestly do some outreach and connect with people. I do send some notices to loved ones. The response is comparatively modest, and without anyone actually stating a specific interest or knowing of somebody who has a specific interest in participating, at least immediately. So at this point, the intention is going to registries like the Intentional Communities Registry and our directory, and approaching groups, putting up a listing, and hitting up some additional activist groups. So that's the intention. Obviously, like I say, my availability for the next few weeks is extremely modest. So how much I'm going to be able to do that within the next few weeks, I'd like to. I'm tempted to, but it's appropriate for me to attend to the obligations and responsibilities that I have otherwise. So that may be something in the works, and the intention is just to keep it on the agenda so that it stays in the thought and the consciousness. So that's a work in progress. Also, it is beneficial to kind of also come up with an info packet, not even just not necessarily an info packet, but just like the parameters of this residential co-op. So I think many people who may be interested, who also are aware of like people's tendency of bullshitting and getting caught up in ideas and zero coming to fruition, wanting to have some type of structure. Yes, wanting to have some say in what's done, but also wanting to have some focus and not having the responsibility of doing something from scratch. So the idea is with this residential co-op is just giving a description of what the parameters are: pluralism, ahimsa, basically adherent to the Trust Compact, but the focal points being pluralism, social justice, environmentalism, and peace. I think those are the main focal points. And then the tangibilities of that, like with environmental, include self-sustaining renewable energy facilities and equipage, potentially water collection facilities, composting of sewage and waste, but just the employing of thorough even self-sustaining infrastructure that is environmentally harmonious. So obviously, it's a work in progress. It's other than all done at once, but that's the commitment that's involved in this endeavor. And again, guided by the Trust Compact. So the participants basically needing to sign on to the trust compact in order to participate. And that is in and of itself is a substantial guideline. So, but being able to articulate that, the general points of that in a brief manner, that is that translates to the different fora, the directories, the listings, the registries of the different groups, Facebook pages, social networking pages, websites, additionally, of activist groups, intentional communities, and additionally. So that's the consideration. Yeah, so there's that. Next item is village experience. So circumstances here are comparatively well. So things are kind of low key. The weather's getting a little bit cooler. I continue to go to the bench here in our uNi village, and there seems to be an increased amount of comfort and familiarity with me at least, meaning that people seem to be increasingly recognize me and be comfortable with me, and that might seem like having the bar very low, but when you look like I do and you do what I do, which is kumbaya and peace and challenging systems that abrogate such, there is an experience of hostility, even when it's very latent and just manifested often just through avoidance and ignoring. So for there to be an increased amount of engagement and a sense of comfort is actually a considerable improvement. So obviously the interest is in building upon that, strengthening relationships, connecting, having conversation, and existing increasingly as an intentional village with villagers, neighboring or neighbors, villagers. So it's a gradual process, and so it's progressing. So there's that. That's up for old business. For new business, diplomatic status. So the idea with this is that for certain cats like myself, abstain from traveling, from going with settler government ID, and so I do have ID. I have a passport issued by the World Service Authority. I also have an underground passport issued through WeFan, the spelling of which extends beyond the English language, which basically stands for the World Interfaith Action Network. So I have ID effectively, but there's some tenuousness with that. So amidst the propensity, amidst the potential of being stopped, of being interrogated, of being that's enough. Being stopped and interrogated by settler police and being solicited for identification, there's the consideration of having some proficient, conventionally recognized credentials without it being a government ID, to satisfy the interaction with such settler enforcement, law enforcement, and even military or border enforcement. So that being said, amidst the challenge of just recognizing even the settler government itself, and through such recognition, availing it or providing it with certain latent credibility, amidst that, which is why the government IDs are let go, amidst all that, the idea is to actually approach the settler government here on Turtle Island, Taino Terrania, and solicit an effective diplomatic status based upon the trust compact. So basically, and I have to do some research into this, but presumably there are different levels of diplomatic status for ambassadors from recognized nations who have standing recognition and relationship with the settler government here. So I seem to I perceive that there are levels of status, some kind of basic levels for just like basic ambassadors and diplomats and other officials traveling, perhaps individuals from working with private institutions that are conferred honorary diplomatic status or temporary diplomatic status or whatever else. So that things that to that level, to like high level diplomatic status for the potentates and the high government officials from other nations, wherein the protocols are increasingly raised for such. So amidst that, there's the intention of identifying an appropriate category of diplomatic status um, to satisfy the purposes of people involved with our signing on to our trust compact, living here within our uNi village, but also additionally, and I speak from the experience of our uNi village in dealing with the settler society, our settler government here on Turtle Island, but amidst our woven community, this is applicable throughout the earth. But right here at the moment, the idea is doing it here with the settler government, so that those who are involved with our uNi village and those who sign on to our trust compact have a certain amount of reassurance of safety, and safety of travel, safety of person, safety of habitation, of living here, even as we're still building our uNi village and still going through the process of becoming conventionally recognized, having a status wherein whenever interacting with government officials or law enforcement or whatever else, being able to refer to that diplomatic status without pledging allegiance to the government, the settler government, having recognition by the settler government that it's okay for us to be here. One, to be here in the surrounding area of this land and this continent that is pervaded by the settler government. So even beyond our uNi village. So that's the idea. Again, obviously that involves a little bit of research and a little bit of work and effort. So how much I'm able to actually, this is a little bit of a priority. It's a work in progress. So the idea is identifying an appropriate option of diplomatic status. What standard categories are internationally, what the international standards are, what are the actual arrangements that the settler government here on Turtle Island provides, and as much as that information is available to the public, and then identifying personnel within the State Department to approach, to send a communication to, with an attachment or reference to our trust compact, explanation of the circumstances, but also very brief and comparatively simple and succinct, saying, hey, we want, and I might phrase it in terms of myself as an individual and establish that as kind of like a paradigm from which to build for others, to include others as well, and others to do the same. But a very succinct correspondence and solicitation with an attachment in reference to our trust compact. So that's a work in progress. That being said, it also, I'm getting to that. So that's new business. That takes us to our update regarding our Wowium Kavik, our Global Federation of Villages. So I mentioned before, let me pause right here for a second. I mentioned before that the Trust Compact correspondence to Amnesty International offices, as well as co-op friends in our respective locations of our Wowium Kavik, is intended in the past week. I actually am able to complete that in the past week on Thursday. There has yet to be a direct response. It's still a little early. It's a lot to absorb, but it's in the ether. It's resonating. It's a thing. So that happens. A new item, a new topic, a new item of business, an item of new business within our Wowium Kavik. It's also connected with our vote of co-op effectively, but particularly with our Wowium Kavik. The idea is approaching monastic orders with the solicitation to make a commitment to fair trade. And so the idea is that monastic orders are, one, religious institutions that are predicated upon values and principles of righteousness, compassion, and are living are examples of the commitment of lifestyle to these principles of compassion and righteousness. and additionally, compassion for all beings, metta. And so that's one thing. Then the other thing is that these are institutions where people live that have that make purchases to sustain the residents. So and that's where it's distinct from a lot of other religious congregations, where many other religious congregations, churches, synagogues, masjids, temples, gurdwaras, and additionally, all are also based upon religious principles of compassion and righteousness. However, the distinction is that monastic orders have to sustain the residents, and so are regularly involved in acquiring products. I mean, obviously, with some there's the tradition of the beggar's bowl, so the logistics of such are distinct. But for many, there are regular meals. There's a regular purchases that are made, and materials that are acquired to sustain the residents of the religious order. So the idea is approaching these institutions, these religious orders, these monastic orders and nunneries, and say, hey, you tout these principles. It seems well for you. It seems appropriate for you to support fair trade, to abide by the tenets of fair trade and support fair trade in the very means in which you sustain yourselves and nourish yourselves. So that's the idea, and so and it's also increasingly accessible. It's other than like approaching some behemoth religious administrative agency, saying, "Hey, you need to employ this principle throughout all your constituency." It's a matter of just going to an order, a monastic order, a convent, wow. The name of like the physical space of the monastic orders escaped me. It was other than Sangha, it's other than temple. Wow, I guess I'm a little bit fatigued still. Anyways, approaching such an organization and saying, hey, you're spending such and such already on food and materials. It's appropriate to do it fair trade, and so establishing that, and it being increasingly a thing. But also that setting the tone and setting an example for other religious organizations, monastic and otherwise, saying, hey, this organization is committing to fair trade in a very tangible, practical manner, a very immediate and direct manner. It seems appropriate, since you tout the same principles, to make a similar commitment. And that does apply to churches and synagogues and masjids and temples and gurdwaras, and additionally. So, and then and building from there. So, and it's unnecessary for it to be through our votive co-op. It's just a matter of supporting fair trade in general, the idea and the practice of fair trade. So that's the thought, and the idea is approaching monastic orders within the respective locations of our William Kavik, and providing these different monastic orders and nunneries with reference to fair trade options in each of those areas, so that it's other than just, hey, do the research yourself. It's a matter of, hey, here are these places to go to. All you have to do is do some clicks and complete an order, and there it is. For the most part, sometimes it may involve a phone call or something like that. But anyways, that's the idea. So that's something in progress, in the works. There's also mention in our William Kavik meeting in the past week about our social networking. It's the same, much of the same issues and information and experience that we have with our uNi village. So I just share that as a way of being candid and thorough in sharing what happened. So that is the update regarding our William Kavik. That brings us to announcements. So first of all, regarding announcements, I am very remiss in failing to mention and announce in previous weeks the recent occurrence of Paryushan within the Jain faith. It is one of the sacred observances within the Jain calendar. It occurs a few weeks ago, and I'm remiss for failing to mention that. I have it in my repertoire. Although, or I should say, I have that information, and actually, I have loved ones who observe the event, the who practice that observance. So I'm aware of it. I know about it. I have yet to. It has yet to be included within my personal repertoire. So my immediate familiarity is comparatively modest. Anyways, zero excuses. I mess up. So uh, I I say my bad. I solicit understanding and forgiveness, and I announce it today for the benefit it provides. So there's that. I am also remiss in failing to appropriately announce Zhongkuji, which is the mid autumn festival or the Moon Festival within the Chinese tradition, which occurs this past week on Thursday, I think Thursday, Friday, actually. So actually Thursday, I think. Anyways, that happens. It's a thing. Um, and it's absent from the notes, the minutes from the past meetings. So I failed to mention on other forum as well, or other fora. So I'm also remiss for that. I solicit understanding and forgiveness for that. That being said, in the past week in Islam there is Hajj, there's Idul Adha, which I do mention. Also within the past week, there's Purnima within the Hindu faith and Upasada within Buddhism. At the moment, there is Elul within Judaism, which is the preceding month, the prelude to the High Holy Days, which are coming up in a couple weeks. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur within Judaism. Also, again, later on this week, on Wednesday, in those days, there is the International Day of Peace, which is comparatively a secular or intertraditional, intercivilizational observance of peace, sanctioned by the United Nations. Also later this week on Friday is Juma within Islam, and then later on that evening is Shabbat within Judaism, and then the next day is Sunday worship within Christianity, and then within the next week plus is feast within the Baha'i faith. And again, the General Assembly of the United Nations has the tradition of commencing a new session around this period as well. So that's something to be mindful of. Those are the announcements for this week. That brings us to benevolent news, where I sing. And let's see if I can say, wait, I'm going to take a swig again. So, again, the three songs that I plan to sing are the same as a week ago. The Lakota healing chant. This is the light of mine, and lift every voice. And yawn. So here we go. Atewa kanto keheo. Atewa kanto keheo. Atewa kanto konshimalayo. Oyate zanichi mpelo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. Atewa kanto konshimalayo. Oyate zanichi mpelo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. Atewa kanto keheo. Atewa kanto keheo. Atewa kanto konshimalayo. Oyate zanichi mpelo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. Atewa kanto konshimalayo. Oyate zanichi mpelo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. Atewa kan tonka heya weo. Atewa kan tonka heya weo. Atewa kan tonka shemalayo. Oyate, oyate zanichi helo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. Atewa kan tonka shemalayo. Oyate, oyate zanichi helo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. Atewa kan tonka heya weo. Atewa kan tonka heya weo. Atewa kan tonka shemalayo. Oyate, oyate nani chimpelo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. Atewa kan tonka shemalayo. Oyate, oyate nani chimpelo. Heya hoya waelo. Heya. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little woke of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little woke of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little woke of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, yeah. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. That brings us to benediction. May all beings be well. And the hour is 14:12. And this weekly meeting of our uNi village is adjourned. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, adios, zaijian, one, asomodwo. Love and peace.